mummies that was taken out of Africa was taken to Europe and sold, and they used it as medicine, and they used it as aphrodisiacs. They ate our dead people's bodies. And cannibalizing us is nothing new. That whole concept of cannibalism comes from Europe.
There is no evidence of cannibalism in Africa. In fact, if you read a book called Man-Eater, there's more references to Europeans eating each other in the cold than there is Africans eating each other in the warmth.
There's so many fallacies about African people and African history and culture. And cannibalism is one example. You know, based on my study, I found more evidence of cannibalism practiced among Europeans in Virginia in the 1600s. There are documented cases of the first settlers coming to Virginia from England, coming here in fall and in the dead of winter, and not having enough supplies to see them through that season. So there's documented instances of people exhuming the bodies of the dead and eating them. There's one particular instance, I forget the gentleman's name, but actually I read this in a National Geographic magazine about a man whose wife died, and he kept her death a secret so that he could eat her corpse and survive the winter.
The cannibalism was going on in Europe big time. In fact, this whole vampire phenomenon that we have is rooted in the cannibalism that was going on in Europe in the Middle Ages. One of the most famous vampires, Dracula, Count Dracula, is really based on a real person named Vlad Dracula, who's also known as Vlad the Impaler. And there's a very famous portrait of Vlad the Impaler from around 1499, sometime in the 1400s, showing him and these people that he impaled on the stake. But they only show half of this portrait, because when you pan out of this portrait, you will see Vlad the Impaler literally at a dinner table eating the body parts. And I mean, he has like knife, fork, salt and pepper, like he's at Applebee's or Denny's or something.
A lot of us were sold just as culinary things during the slave trade. But we just focus on this chain and stuff, but a lot of us were just good eating. And a lot of Europeans got in the slave trade for the eating. Yeah, they cooked it. They were actually cooking black people. They hang you up, but they had a fire underneath you. They were cooking us and selling the oil. They sold Nat Turner's oil as aphrodisiac right here in America.